Yes, people, welcome back to the Lilywhite Lounge. It is 2026 and we're back. We've had a little break over Christmas, over New Year. Back for episode 16 though. And welcome back by Gus, who I haven't had on for a while. There's been a lot of changes in both of our lives. Gus, you moved house, right? That's been a bit chaotic.
Has been a bit chaotic. Holidays were also pretty chaotic. I was in Boston for Thanksgiving, and then I came back home, and my sister and brother-in-law stayed with me for a week and a half for Christmas. New Year's, I was working. It was just, it's kind of always a mess during the holidays, but glad to be through it. Miserable few weeks for Spurs, but happy to be back on this lovely podcast with you. And how you been? How was the holidays for you?
Yeah, good. As I'm sure you know, I've gone full time in terms of content stuff, so that's been a big change. So
Huge.
yeah, a lot of chaotic changes, and then the Christmas and New Year period is always heavy for me, and lots of people. So now just getting back to it properly, kind of New Year, attacking it head on. So yeah, been good. Spurs on the other hand, not so good, but we've discussed that already on my socials. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of, we're in a little bit of in terms of the winter period, a bit of a break in terms of between games. We've had like games every 3-4 days for a while, so this feels like a nice kind of break from matches, and obviously it's the transfer window. Since recording, we've signed Souza, the left back. I mean, these are subject to announcements. Souza, the left back, Gallagher, subject to announcement as well. Yeah, just those two, right? And then we've had other links. So we're gonna kind of get into those today. And yeah, let's start with Gallagher, because obviously that's the one that's happened most recently, the most talked about at the moment. Gus, what were your thoughts on Gallagher as a player? And then separately, like the fit and kind of your thoughts on the whole deal altogether.
I found this really interesting. I know that we've been linked to him for 3 seasons now. The report today was Ange called him 8 times, which seems wild. Like that's a joke in itself. Um, so I was kind of expecting a link this winter. I know he was out of favor at Atletico Madrid. He was always a target for us coming out of Chelsea. They kind of hounded him out for a couple of reasons. From the research I did yesterday and into today, we know that his Premier League numbers were really good under Poch. He was the leader, all action 8, did a little bit of everything for them. Great legs, really good out of possession, just a runner, effective athlete. I think that this deal is one of those deals that I don't love and I'm not over the moon with, but I won't go as far as to say I hate it. I think that besides the surplus in that position that we'll talk about more, I think that he's a good player and he's definitely our best 8 currently. I've seen a lot of discourse around Sarr being a better player than him, and I think that's something you'll touch on, but I think that right now Sarr's probably a better generalist. He does everything to a really good level, and Gallagher has his specialties. But what Gallagher does, he does much better than Sarr, and I think that that position is something we were definitely looking for experience. A leader helps with our homegrown quota. He's only 25. A little head scratching about how much we're paying him in the 5.5-year contract, but you're not going to dump 40 million euros on a midfielder, only sign him to a 2-year contract or 3-year contract. It doesn't make sense. I've come around on it a little bit. It's a little bit of a head scratcher, but not one that I'm too surprised at. I think that we were always destined to have a Conor Gallagher on our squad at some point. So how did you feel? I know your initial reaction wasn't too excited, but I noticed that you posted some things about some of the positives, and I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I think like you, I've kind of warmed to him as a player, and I've rated Gallagher. I've always rated Gallagher. I think he he's the kind of player who will give you 7 out of 10 consistently, and we don't have enough of those players in the squad. And I also think he doesn't really let his standards drop, like depending on where the team's performing. And again, I think a lot of our players kind of, if the going gets tough, they hide. And I think Gallagher's someone that won't do that. And there's a lot of things in football where they're kind of intangibles that you can't really measure statistically, or even sometimes with the eye test, they go unnoticed. But I think Gallagher is someone that gives you that extra 5% in kind of every action. He does everything with purpose and intent. And so there is a lot to like with him as a player. And I think I'd be much more sympathetic to this signing if we weren't where we were. I think where we are is because of the lack of planning. And I think, again, this for me feels reactive. It feels opportunistic rather than preparation. And so that's where my concerns come. It's nothing to do with Gallagher as a footballer, because I think Gallagher improves us. For me, it's like constantly neglecting issues in the squad year on year and then continuing to stockpile certain positions because maybe players that we rate happen to come up or happen to be available. And that's just not how you build a successful squad. On Gallagher as a player, I think for me, I like him further forward. I like his ability to arrive in the box. I think for a team that struggles to score goals, struggles to have players with output, I think Gallagher is someone that can definitely provide output from midfield. I think his timing of run, but also his finishing off both feet, like his ball striking is good. He's calm in and around the box, and he's purposeful, and he has the desire to run beyond. And I think in the modern game, football in general, I think being able to run from deep is always so hard to defend, because midfielders don't want to track a midfielder beyond their defensive line. So if you're a midfielder running from deep and you run beyond the line, the midfielder is going to pass them on, and that's where the miscommunication comes. And then, you tend to find yourself in space if the timing of the pass is right and all that kind of thing. And I think Gallagher times those really, really well. My issue is more the squad building side of things. I think we now have a really clogged up area of the squad while we've neglected other areas of the squad. So if we name them, we've got Bergvall, best as a number 8 at the moment, playing as a number 10, but I think anyone with a brain knows that he's a number 8 at the moment. Archie Gray, I had kind of hopes that he would be able to play a bit deeper. I think he's really struggled in terms of especially being able to receive it on the half turn. I think he still looks clunky when he receives it. He looks a little bit out of control, a little bit like Bambi on ice-ish. Bissouma obviously has been discarded. I think Bissouma's probably the best fit for what we're missing, but other stuff. Bentancur, bit of a all-rounder, but not great at anything. Injured for 3 months. Palhinha, who is a natural sitter, but out of possession. In possession, you don't want him being the first ball receiver because he's not going to provide anything for you. Have I missed something? And then Sarr, obviously, who I think Sarr probably profiles most similar to Gallagher. Less consistent, less technically sound than Gallagher. Probably a slightly better natural athlete, but I do think Gallagher's like intangibles carry some of his athleticism as well. Like he's just eager to get to the ball first and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's where I'm really worried about. We've clogged up that area and we still haven't signed someone who can receive it off the back line and play from deep. What's your thoughts on that kind of clogging?
I agree with most of what you said. I think that your breaking down of our midfield group is pretty spot on. Gray doesn't look as much like a 6 as we thought he would look like. I think that you're right that he looks clunky on a half turn. He looks nervous to receive, especially after the air versus Forest. I think that defensively, I mean, you saw it versus Villa, he looked pretty lost. I think out of possession, he has a really tough time defending space. So he can't be a sitter for us. He could maybe receive in the first phase pretty consistently, but he hasn't really shown that for us. I think with Leeds, we saw some really promising glimpses of press resistance and ability to play forward in the first phase, but he hasn't really shown that. Bergvall, we all know we want to see deeper. And that's, I think, what a lot of people are worried about with this Gallagher signing is Sarr and Bergvall. And I think rightfully so. Where do we play Gallagher? And I know that we both agree he's better further forward, farther advanced. He would play definitely in front of Paulinho and have that dynamic that he had with Caicedo. I think that that works if we can get him the ball, if we can get him in positions to make him effective and to utilize his best attributes. But I think that's something that we've always struggled with. We'll buy players that have strengths that we all are promised to be game-changing traits, and we can't put them in a position to succeed. I think the perfect example is Kudus, right? We know how good he is in 1v1 situations, but we constantly put him in situations where he's the only guy on the ball and he has no options. So all of his weaknesses are now exemplified. And so I think with Gallagher, that's what I'm worried about, is that we won't put him in a position to succeed. I think personally, I love him high up the pitch. I love him receiving, winning second balls, driving forward, hopefully contributing to, goals and assists on a consistent basis. Don't think he'd be playing 10 for us. He could play 10, and I think Frank might enjoy that because he's a more physical presence than Xavi is and Maddison. And I could see him being played there with Xavi on the left, and I don't necessarily mind that. I think that he could contribute probably at in better ways for us in that position. But right
Under
now, I
Frank,
think
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, under Frank for sure. And I think just right now, if we play him at 8, right, he's taking minutes away from Bergvall, who I know rightfully so, hands up, he's going to be hurt probably for a while. Sarr's out of form. He hasn't played a lot of minutes since November. So, hitting the ground running in these next few weeks, going into kind of the business end of the season, I think that he'll probably play that 8 role and take a lot of minutes away from Bergvall and Sarr when he comes back, which I don't know. I'm a little bit optimistic it might work out. I think that I've seen some takes today, and I kind of agree. I think it'll age better than we are initially reacting to. Maybe not this season because of Frank and just the capitulation of everything that's happening and just the board's dysfunction. But if we can get a deep line playmaker and shift Bentancur and Paulinho in the summer, I think that it could work out where we keep our promising youngsters and move forward with a good group that maybe isn't the best, but is much, much less gash than we see now, right? Like, we just get run through on a consistent basis, and it's the most infuriating shit ever.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I think a lot of this signing comes down to like floor versus ceiling. And I think people are very concerned with where we're at now, rightly so. I think we're obviously a mess. And I think Gallagher does come in and improve that. But it's like, for me, the way I look at it is this season is a write-off.
Totally.
This season, especially the league campaign, is complete. Well, the league, Champions League is probably a write-off as well. The league's 100% a write-off. We're not going to get relegated because there's 3 terrible teams. And so why panic in this window and sign someone that I think will improve the team without thinking through the kind of makeup of that team long term? And I think this signing comes down to floor versus ceiling. And I don't think the Gallagher necessarily isn't going to improve. I just think in the way the talents we have in the squad, Gray, Bergvall especially, they have the potential to go on and be better players than Gallagher, but play in his position. And so why now do we panic and kind of lessen their minutes to sign Gallagher, where the season's pretty much a write-off anyway? You might as well just play them and let them develop. And we know that we need this deep-lying playmaker, regardless of manager, regardless of this season, next season. We need that. We've needed that for ages. So why isn't that priority? That's my kind of thinking. But I also know that signings aren't done in kind of necessity order. So, it's not even halfway through January yet. So we maybe will get that profile in as well. So that's definitely one to watch. Okay, let's talk about specifically those players you mentioned. We got a question from my good friend Jack, who said, what does Gallagher joining mean for Bergvall specifically? Does he move back into the pivot if Gallagher is using the 10? The other kind of thing I wanted to also just add to this is, just as you were speaking, I was thinking of the potentially maybe Frank shifts it to more of like a single pivot with Paulinho, and then you have Xavi dropping next to Gallagher. that would make more sense to me than having Palhinha and Gallagher in a double pivot and Xavi ahead of them, because I don't think Xavi's going to receive the ball if that's the case. But if you get Xavi kind of receiving the ball with the runs from Gallagher beyond, then at least Xavi then has someone to pass to. Xavi can come deeper and get the ball off Palhinha and sort of hold his hand in that build-up phase. And then we've got the dynamism of Gallagher running beyond. And I think that, I mean, that just came to my head now, but I think that makes more sense. But what's your kind of thinking on Bergvall with this signing in mind?
I'm nervous for him. I think we're all nervous for him. This
how long
season,
how long is his injury?
it hasn't been reported yet. It looked very similar to Kudus,
Right.
where he grabbed his thigh, was able to walk off the pitch, but with support from the training staff.
Okay.
If I had to guess, is probably a month or more. It didn't look good. I think that with him injured, there is no easy path for him back into the 11 if Gallagher performs. I would like to see Bergvall obviously in a deeper role. And like you said, in a situation that you're mentioning where Xavi drops deep and is able to spray or get the ball to the higher, more advanced state that would be Gallagher or Bergvall, I think that Bergvall is definitely more suited for that role than an out-and-out 10, just winning second balls like Frank is having him play. So I think in that sense, if we do shift tactically to accommodate or to exemplify kind of what Gallagher is strong at, then it could benefit Bergvall, because I think it's less of the out-and-out 10 role that he's playing currently. I obviously want to see Bergvall in a deeper role. I think that he's so much better in those areas. He has a feel for those areas so much better than he does higher up the pitch. I don't see Bergvall being phased out or thrown off to the side completely because of Gallagher, just because of how promising he is as a player. I think that any manager we have coming in is going to look at him. I would even say any manager coming in besides, Frank's the only one I can think of that wouldn't look at Sarr as a crown jewel as well, just the way that you can utilize him in different roles in the midfield and his ability to do everything at a decent level. I think that a smart manager who values the development of him and Bergvall will both find a way to fit them in. But I don't think Gallagher, Bergvall, Palhinha is a midfield that Frank will completely rule out when Bergvall comes back. I think that midfield is almost a Frank wet dream of just big box-to-box, all-action players that, can break up play and win second balls and duels. So I don't see that being ruled out. And I would hope that if Gallagher was playing 10, that Bergvall would be in that pivot with Palhinha and be able to hold his hand that way. But we'll see. I have a hard time thinking of our strategy, our squad building tactically, with Frank always in the back of my mind, because I just don't know how he's going to make things work different than what he's doing right now, which he's not making.
He's not going to be the manager next season. I'm like,
no, yeah, completely.
I'm like 99% sure of that. So it's really difficult to kind of analyze these players, which I think kind of works in Gallagher's favor a little bit. I do think he is a Frank player, but I also think Gallagher's the kind of player that any manager will appreciate. A little bit like in a different way, but Mason Mount, like when Mason Mount was fit, any manager that got hold of him loved him, because certain intangibles that you can't quantify, and you also can't really see when you're not with these players week in, week out, like the ability to take instructions, the ability to hold yourself to a certain level. I think that carries from manager to manager. So I think that's really important. But I think, like we were talking about earlier, I just don't see Frank shifting to that single pivot, because he likes to empty out the midfield. He doesn't like any kind of bodies in midfield. He plays up the flanks and wants aggressive runners. And so to have two in there to kind of help progress the ball, I just don't see happening. So it'll be really interesting to see where Gallagher's used. But yeah, I think we've kind of talked about the signing in general. I think the overall strategy seems problematic. I've talked about it on my channel, but good player. And, I'm sure he will have an impact at Spurs. He's the kind of player that will impact any team. I hope he does great. Like,
I was a little worried with this window with finding ways to bring in homegrown players, especially with losing Brennan. I just think that it was too opportunistic. We had done too much groundwork already to pass it up. This is just me thinking in terms of the board and the mess of their decision-making process. I do think that this signing was coming, and I wouldn't be surprised, and this is kind of one of those spur lore things, is like, I wouldn't be surprised if in a month he has a few good performances and there's a Matt Law article about how he's the leader in the dressing room all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Like, Spurs are so happy with Gallagher's ability to hit the ground running and command the presence and attention of his teammates, just shit like that. I think that that's what they were aiming for. They were aiming for, someone who's going to bring passion and energy, and like you said, 5% more and everything that someone who is a little disillusioned by the style of play might not be able to put in. So I see it.
Yeah.
I'm not too happy. I'm not too sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think yeah, it's reactive, and I also think with the homegrown thing, I can think of 5 players that would have suited what we needed more in terms of homegrown, and that's Curtis Jones, who got linked. I think Curtis Jones, while he's not that pure passer, he's very progressive, and he can pass through the lines as well.
Oh yeah.
And he's just, I think he would have been perfect for what we need. If you get him and like a proper out and out passer, you're building a very good midfield. Curtis Jones, I was thinking Hayden Hackney. Obviously, we've been linked with a little bit as well. I'm thinking Alex Scott from Bournemouth. I'm thinking Kobbie Mainoo. Again, probably more of a carrier, but progressive and can receive under pressure. And then obviously the elite ones, which unlikely, but Elliot Anderson and Adam Morton. So there's a lot of good English midfielders around. And not that Gallagher's not a good English midfielder, but a lot of more progressive on the ball. But I think Gallagher will help us, and if we can get pieces right around him, I do think he can have a real impact at Spurs. If we build right around him, I just don't back the club to do that in kind of going off my past experiences. But we have been linked to one of your favorite players, who I think we've spoken about on the pod for sure before, which is Maghnes Akliouche. Just off these links, it worries me about Kulusevski's condition. From a lot of people who kind of seem to know their stuff, I think there's big concerns around Kulusevski and his return to top level football, but maybe even just football in general. I think apparently it's a freak injury, which got reported as a knock when I think it first came out, which is just so Spurs. But, I really, really hope for his sake, like not even just for Spurs' sake, that that's not kind of a career-defining injury. So I think the fact that we're being linked to a left-footed, right-sided player, while we also have Kudus already, worries me for Kulusevski's condition. But, Akliouche is one of the best, if that is the case, is one of the best probably possible players we could get in terms of kind of replacing that potential impact. Obviously you are an expert on this player, so tell me your thoughts on him, and then obviously the fit in the Spurs squad and kind of what we need.
Yeah, I think we talked about him in like our second episode. I'm not sure. It was very early on. We started recording these pods, at least between me and you, at the beginning of the summer window. And I had, extensively studied Aklouch just because he was one of my favorite players during the season. I was watching a lot of Monaco. And over the summer, I spent a lot of time watching his film because I thought that would probably be a backup option to Kudus. I was pretty sure that Kudus was going to end up at Chelsea. And so Aklouch was probably the best backup option. And at the time, with our 10s hurt, I thought that he could cover 10. Wasn't confident that we would get a 10 in the door. I was thinking that maybe we would skimp even further and go for a right wing 10 hybrid that could play both. So that's why I was so kind of I was pushing him so hard. Once we got Kudus, I laid off the gas. I just knew that with Kulusevski potentially coming back, that it would clog up those two positions. So if he is a direct replacement for Kulusevski, and we are very concerned about him being able to play football or high-level football in the future, then great job. Claps all around. That's a great replacement. The best like for like in the world, I think. He can do everything that Kulusevski can do. They have different strengths. Kulusevski's much more physical,
Yeah.
and a much better athlete and runner, powerful runner, where Aklouch is much more of the ballet type, where he's able to operate in small spaces, get around players, and use an armbar. So not as good as Kulusevski in that sense, using his physicality. They're very similar players in the way that they always are trying to create for others. They have great back post crosses when they cut inside on their left. They can operate in an 8 or 10 position, and they're pretty robust, defensively for an attacking player. I could talk about Akliouche all day. I think that if Kulusevski is not going to play this season, and we're really concerned about having to potentially think about replacements, I think replacing him now when Akliouche is not a very sought after product, which he was kind of over the summer. Monaco were asking for 70 million euros. I think we could probably get him for much less now. It would still be opportunistic and a little bit reactionary with, that image of Kulusevski in the training room the other day. He's always hinting that he's coming back soon, but we don't really know what's happening. So, I mean, if Kulusevski was to come back this season and looked all right, and we also bought Akliouche this winter, I would be really confused. We could never play a Kulusevski Akliouche lineup. They're all left-footed players. They all operate in the same zones. Even if we get a manager that loves tactical freedom and lets players roam, I just don't think they would mesh very well.
I don't even like just Kudus and Kulusevski in the same team. That
Exactly.
work for me. To have another one is
To have another one who I think it's zone 14 who loves the edge of the right side of the box. Like we don't need another one of those players. Now, having said that, I absolutely love him. I think that he would help a lot with our progression, more so than Kudus. He's a much better head-up dribbler, can interlink really well with the players around him, is a progressive passer and carrier, so not just a carrier like Kudus is. I think that with Kudus going down, potentially not having Kulusevski the rest of the year, you make that decision with Kulusevski in the summer. If he's not going to play the rest of the year, we're not really sure how Matters is going to be when he comes back. More depth at 10. I think that it rounds out the squad if we make some hard decisions in the summer. I would hate to lose Kulusevski, especially if before having seen him play when he gets back, because I would really like to see just on our team how he's performing before we sell him. But I think that Aklouch isn't really a goal and assist merchant. He's not going to come in and bag 10 goals. He's not going to do what Kulusevski did when we bought him in January in 2022. He's not going to come in and get nine goals and assists in 11 games. That's just not the player he is. He's going to create chances. He already has 45 this season, even in a quote unquote down year. He's always going to be a good creator. He's always going to dribble with a head up. He's really good in tight spaces. He's getting better with his instincts for goal, and I think that there's a lot of positives there. I would say sign him if we have a plan in place, but I'm not sure we do. I would much prefer, I don't know, like a Lookman. I just think that makes a little bit more sense for us. He can play both sides. He actually contributes for goals. And the last thing I want to do is get Akliouche, one of my favorite players who's not a Spurs player, and then first week he's in the door, he's already getting criticized for not being able to score goals. That's not why we're going to sign him.
Yeah.
He's not a goal scorer.
Yeah. I think it's a great point. I agree in terms of the both-sided play. I think makes sense here because you don't know. Well, they might know what Kulusevski's condition is, but I mean, you only know until once they kind of return to matches. And here's my thoughts on Kulusevski, because I think it's a concern because of how reliant he was on his physicality. In terms of all his actions, he's a very physical player. And returning from an injury like that might be a real concern. And we've seen when Kulusevski doesn't feel right physically, his performances drop off a cliff. Like the difference between him in the first half of last season to second half of last season, because he was overplayed, because he wasn't at his top condition, just drastically changed. I think he's the kind of player that needs to feel perfect to hit those levels, and then if you don't get those levels from him, you get something really rough. There's not really an in between with him, and that's why I have concerns there. In terms of squad building, it's just confusing me. I
Totally.
just I went into this window thinking, yeah, we're not that I even wanted a left winger, but obviously if it was one or the other, it was a left winger. And now Kudus has been injured, and suddenly we want a right winger. And I get it, like I said before, cool, we want to impact the team right now, whatever. But we're not competing for anything this season. The season is done. It is wrapped up. It is finished. Like there's nothing more to say about this season. So why for 3 months do we need a right winger when we can just play Odegaard there or whatever to clog up that squad space? That's why it doesn't make sense to me. That being said, I will accept any technical footballer coming to this club. I'm that's what I watch Spurs for. So Akliouche coming in, I'm gonna love watching him. I'm never gonna be unhappy with a player like him coming to Spurs. All these like French ballers that we're signing, like that's a bit of me. So yeah, like if it happens, obviously I'm gonna be happy with it, because I like those kind of players. But it's just, maybe it's like my sort of mathematical brain, the way I'm just looking at this squad building is really like hurting my brain. I'm just like, I just don't get it. And
It's like type A versus type B personality. It's like,
exactly.
So type B is where just like get them in the door, and type A is like, how did they fit? Like, how are we gonna maximize them?
Because like I did like I was always good at maths in school. I did maths A level, which is like your high school. So, but we obviously pick certain subjects. So I did maths A level. So like my brain's always worked very mathematically, and like this stuff stresses me out when I'm like, I just don't get it. Like I just don't understand why we've got one left centre back. We've got 2 left backs now, but we had one left back. We've got
and like
no
five right centre backs.
We've got 6. Yeah, we've got 5 right centre backs. We've got 6 number 8s. We've got 2 right wingers in the squad already. We're going to sign another one. We've got, that stuff just really is hurting my brain. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the condition with Kulusevski is like. I think the thing I would say about Kulusevski, I've always thought that he suits a transitional team better. I think the reason he was so good under Conte is because he was so good on the counter-attack, because of his ball carrying, because of his ability to run into space, but also I think he was much more efficient with his end product in those kind of moments. And I think Akliouche is someone that would thrive more against low blocks. A bit of magic, a bit of that eye of the needle kind of work. So, if our next coach is going to be one who is more progressive, possession heavy, camping in the opposition half, then great. I think Akliouche works. If it's under Thomas Frank, I really worry for someone like Akliouche, because I just don't, and it won't be under Thomas Frank long term. If he comes in January, I worry about him. But then on the other side of that, I think the Premier League is so intense and transitional at the moment that I think a fully fit Kulusevski works more than an Akliouche at the moment. But sometimes players are that good technically that they just seamlessly slot in. So that's still, I still think technical ability can carry, but it needs to be of a certain upper echelon. I
agree with most of what you just said. I think Aklouch is a little bit better in transition than most give him credit for. I think that's where when he has space in front of him, he really gets his head up, and he's a very good creator when he progresses forward in transition. And like you said, he can open up a low block with multiple different kind of tools at his disposal. I feel the same way with Kulusevski and Aklouch. I feel like they have so many similarities, but they're slightly different in the sense that Kulusevski's much more refined in what he's good at. Aklouch is a little bit better of a all-round player, much let's just say easier on the eye. I think anyone remembers his performance against us in the Champions League. He probably should have had 2 assists. He was making, flicks around the corner, 1-2 combinations that, we hadn't seen on our team, probably because our manager and just our low technical level. But he does things that will get people off their seats, much like Kulusevski, but his are much cleaner and much more calculated. Kulusevski sometimes feels out of control. And also to touch on your point about Kulusevski needing to be peak match fitness, I think this leg is going to be an interesting injury for him because of the way he plays. We all know that Kulusevski, much like Kirkaz, always looks like he's about to fall down. I think with a knee like that and kind of the chaotic, unbalanced way he moves, his body movements and his biomechanics, that's what I'm worried about the most. And I'm honestly glad that we haven't heard much about it, so there's no pressure on him to come back at a certain point. I think I posted something online that was like, I'd be happy if we saw him on the bench starting in like April. Like I don't care if it takes him more than 12 months, just put him on ice as long as possible. If that means that we need to make a decision in the summer because we have both players, I think we're better off, having a technical player than not having one. But I don't know. I also just know the way our fan base operates, and I never want to set up a player to get abuse because I'm propping him too hard. I will be always balanced on these players. I'm the last person to say that Aklouch is going to come in and change our lives. He's not.
I'll say
he's a
it.
good.
I'll say it.
Yeah, exactly. You say it. He's a good player, but he's not a world beater. He's not going to come in
No,
and
you
do like
and
what
you
Liao
like
would do for us or something.
you like his style and the way
I
he
just
plays.
love watching him. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he's a very good player, but he's not. Yeah, he's not like he's not a.
No.
No, he improves us for sure, and
Yeah.
I think like I've said for so long, our technical level is nowhere near where it should be, and he's a technical player. So, but yeah, it's not like a game changing signing, and I don't think we can attract game changing individuals at the moment. I think
No,
the
really.
way we get back to the top is smart squad building and
Mm-hmm.
buying players with ceilings that they can improve. I think there's no way we're going to sign guaranteed hits that are going to take us up a level. We're just not going to do that. So the way we get back to the top is signing players with high ceilings and building with them and integrating them well, not putting pressure on young players, having kind of manage their minutes, but also integrate them really well and be just smart with your squad planning and your academy or your young player integration. And I think that's where it comes from the top. And I don't think the top are fit for purpose at the moment. I just don't think.
Not at all.
I really, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who runs the club anymore.
Who makes the final decision right
I
now?
think it's Vinay. I think it's Vinay, but I have no idea. But yeah, I think that's all in terms of the stuff I wanted to cover. I'll quickly kind of talk about a couple questions that we had. We will start with, what does supporting Tottenham mean to you, Gus? Yeah, you go first and I'll speak. This is from Daniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be the first one to say supporting Tottenham means to me that for the first few months of the season, I am either depressed or overly optimistic. And then I think we all hit a wall of disinterest. And so I'm just completely tuned out at the moment. I will be the first one to tell you, I haven't watched a Spurs game and cheered. I think the Tell goal was like the only cheerable moment in the last 2 months. For me, supporting Spurs means that I get to talk about Spurs with my friends and my fellow supporters and bond and make friends through that. And I am either optimistic or depressed half the season, half the season I'm completely apathetic. So pain, anguish, some excitement. I'm definitely proud of it. I think like as an American, picking a team that isn't an Arsenal or United or Liverpool, oftentimes I can create conversation with people because I support Spurs. They're interested in why I support Spurs, which I always really, really love. Or I'm wearing a Spurs kit out in public, or some gear, and someone comes up to me and is like, "Oh, I'm a Spurs fan," and it's just a rarity, and it's kind of a unique experience for an American. So I really enjoy it when it comes to like the people I meet, people like you, people like Henry, people online, people in real life. But I mean, at this point in the season, most years, I'm catching up on movies or shows, just posting kind of meme content on Twitter. I do love our doomerism gimmick online. I think that the doomerism is hilarious, and we're probably the best fan base in the world at that shit. I think that like no one can top us, and I do enjoy that. But that, that's what it means to me. I'm sure it's much different being around people.
To be honest, like it's not that different.
Okay.
By the way, when Gus said Henry's our producer.
Yeah, our producer. Shout out Henry
for this podcast. I have to shout him out. In terms of like what you said about like why like the thing of like not many people supporting Spurs, like I don't interact with that many Spurs fans in real life. Like everyone I know supports Arsenal pretty much around me anyway. I live, like I've said before, I live like 10 minutes from the Arsenal stadium, walking distance. I don't live far from Spurs stadium either, but yeah, everyone, and I think my age as well, when I was growing up or when I was first started getting into football was like 2005, 2006 when I was 5 or 6. So, that was Arsenal's peak. Or it was sort of coming to the end of their peak, but they were, Thierry Henry was there and whatever. So I think it was such a natural thing for so many people to support Arsenal. But even then, yeah, I meet a lot more Chelsea-ish fans, United fans, a few. There's not that many Spurs. There's a few. Even like, I think a lot of Spurs fans live just outside London, like north, like just past the like outskirts of London. But yeah, again, I think it's like, yeah, making connections with people that support Spurs because it's not that common. But also it's taught me don't get your hopes up that much. Like hope for the best.
Realism, maybe.
The worst. Like genuinely, because we just don't get nice things. And I think like I'm sure that has actually taught me stuff in my life. Like not consciously, but like subconsciously, I'm sure it's done a lot. Yeah, I love going to the games. I mean, at the moment, I don't love going to the games really, but I love the environment when I'm around games, and I love, my dad supports Spurs, so that's a massive thing for me as well. So yeah, it's difficult, but I probably wouldn't have it any other way. Like that's just what it is, isn't it?
It's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my dad into Spurs currently. He's not a big football enjoyer.
There's so many ways you can get around it, I think.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. He started to text me when games are happening, so I know he's actually like paying attention. He's not texting me like an update like, oh, that should have been a yellow, or oh, I can't believe that didn't go in, whatever, but he's texting me about the results and like what happened. So he's clearly reading up on games.
That's the
I think I just need to invite him over to watch with me and see how invested I am, because same with some of my American sports fandom, I got him into being an Eagles fan. I got him more into being a Red Sox fan. So it's like, I just need to experience that with him. And growing up, that was what I watched mostly. So that would help a lot, kind of with having someone in my family to bounce off of. But
yeah, because I think football is such it's an easy sport to engage with. I think if you actually give it a chance. I mean, maybe that's from a biased point of view, but I think I'm thinking of people that don't love football, but like the World Cup, for example, is like everyone loves the World Cup, regardless of if you like.
Love the World Cup.
So like, and that there's no sports like that unanimously enjoyed in the same way as like the World Cup is. Okay, couple more. Gus, you can give me this is a random one, but top 3 cuisines.
Oh, I got this easy. Indian.
Yeah. This is quite a common question, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Indian, number 1, Japanese, number 2, Italian, number 3.
Yeah, that's the only right answer, I think.
I know, right? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think I would have it. I think I would have Indian number 1 as well. And I am half Indian, but the type of Indian food that I like isn't actually my culture's food. It's like more like, I think it's more Sikh. I don't know. It's like more my culture in India is like vegetarian food, but I like the grill stuff, like the grilled like tandoori stuff, or like lamb chop.
So good.
So that's, but then obviously Italian's so versatile, like pastas,
it's everything.
So many, and then Japanese, it's great as well. My honorable mention is Caribbean food, though. I think that's
shout out
a lot. And there's certain times where I only crave Caribbean food over other cuisines. Like I'm like,
Hmm.
whereas like with the other stuff, I can kind of switch between. But sometimes I'm like, no, I want curry
Hmm.
goat.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are good answers. Okay, I'm gonna give you favorite bar pub in where not necessarily just for games, but that you've
Hmm.
been, let's say, or that around
Um,
you. I'm sure there
I
will be like
actually,
one person listening that lives in the
oh
vicinity at least.
yeah, no, I need to think of the name of it, and while you share, I'll just describe what I'm thinking of. There's a I went on vacation to Vancouver 2 summers ago, um, and there was a Irish pub. It was one of the oldest pubs on an island off of Vancouver, and our friend Bala will probably know this
Yeah,
island. It's called Victoria Island. It's one of the bigger inhabited islands off the Pacific coast of Canada, and it's the only town. Victoria is the only town on the island, and there's a really old streets. It was one of the first merchant cities that Vancouver established. There's a bunch of old Irish pubs there, and I was there with my dad. It might actually be a chain, a Canadian chain, but it's just so it was just so warm and inviting, and all the TVs were football. And I think it was a Champions League Wednesday. So I was in heaven. My dad was kind of like, are you paying attention to me? I was just like looking all around. It was a perfect environment. Crisp, frothy Guinness. It was beautiful. I'll have to think of the name, but anyone who's been to Victoria would know exactly what I'm talking about.
okay,
I think it's a chain, so I might get called out a little bit for that, but
but
it was a
it's the
good
whole
time.
package. Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
package. Also like Irish pubs slash bars are just everywhere. Like I remember being in Thailand and like
Oh,
there's so many there. It's ridiculous. They're just you can find one anywhere.
I know.
Um, Mine would be trying to think what mine are quite like low key ones that are just like local to me. Um, to watch Spurs, it's the Beehive, which
Mhm.
is like slightly further out than the other ones near the stadium, but it's like in walking distance. Like that's the one that like I go to with Seb and Ben before games. We always go before games, so I love that pub, and I go there like away from Spurs as well. That's just like a good pub. In terms of like other pubs, I'm trying to think. There's a few just round me, which is in like Hackney, which I always just go to, but there's so many in London that like you
Mhm.
can't like you can have a favorite, I guess, but it's only favorite because you go there a lot. It's not like
Right.
they're all quiet.
They're
No,
trying to
there's
figure
some
out.
shit ones, but it's
Yeah.
yeah,
They're trying to figure out where you're going to be on match days so they can berate you in person. You know,
yeah. I'm
like
sure. Well, that will
Lilywhite
be it.
Lab just posted this that I disagreed. Started teasing you in person.
No, exactly. Okay, well, that's been like a nice mix of stuff all the way through.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're gonna end it how we usually end it.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, please, guys, before we do that, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate the podcast as well on Spotify and Apple, wherever
Mhm.
you're listening. Comment there as well. And yeah, like hopefully, I mean, I really avoided speaking about any of the games because I think we've all had enough of that, and it's quite nice to have a break from that. But yeah, Gus, if you have anything you want to recommend people, I know what I'm gonna say because
We're probably gonna
um,
say the same thing,
are we?
but I'll leave that for you because I know what you're
No,
gonna
go
talk
on,
about.
say what you're gonna
No,
say.
industry,
Yeah,
industry,
yeah.
all day industry.
Okay, well, I
Episode
think
one
it's
was
good to say that we're
yeah.
both recommending it because it's that good.
Industry episode
Yeah,
one was a banger. There was a lot more nudity than I expected,
it's
but
crazy.
it was a banger. Um, yeah, so I would recommend Industry to anyone. Season 4 just started. 1 through 3 is fire. A lot of people think season 1 is slow. It's my favorite season, but it
Yeah,
also I think the season 2 and 3 are just like equally as comparable. It
I
just
think
doesn't.
3 was my favorite.
3
I'm
was
trying to remember
class,
what
man.
happens in 1. Um,
1 is just all of them being interns, like
yeah,
making their way through the industry and getting like permanent positions. And I think seeing that chaos was so cool.
yeah.
Industry and then movies. I think the movie that I watched most recently, 2 of them that stood out to me. If you haven't seen Marty Supreme, go see it. I
I'm
really
watching that
enjoyed it.
tomorrow. I'm having my dad tomorrow. Yeah,
You've seen it tomorrow? Yeah,
yeah.
it's fucking electric. If you liked Uncut Gems, you're gonna love it. If you love Good Times, sorry, with Robert Pattinson, you're gonna love it. And then yeah, I don't know. I've binged so many movies since the new year. I think I'm on like 12 movies in 13 days. So Follow my letterbox. It's in my bio. You can follow along with me if you want. I think Hard Eight was one of the first Paul Thomas Anderson movies, which is a big director nowadays, that I really enjoyed. It's about gambling in Reno, Nevada, and kind of a mysterious father figure. John C. Reilly's in it. Gwyneth Paltrow, young Gwyneth Paltrow, and Samuel L. Jackson. Chinatown I watched, which is like a movie. It's a Polanski movie from the 70s. Jack Nicholson is a detective in Los Angeles.
Oh, you've
Really
been
enjoyed
throwing
that.
it back and bare
I've
classic.
been watching. I made a pact with myself that I'm gonna try to watch one must see TV, one must see
Yeah,
movie every
I
week
made that pact
this year.
a couple years
Yeah,
ago and just didn't do it. But I,
I'm on a
I've
good I'm on a good
yeah.
streak, but it's early days. It's early days.
Yeah. What I'm gonna say like industry is like it is the best depiction of London partying, like the most accurate, I'd say. In terms of that's not what it's about. It's about like interns that go into like the banking world, very high pressure job, but it's like work hard, play hard vibes. Like they work super hard, but then they go out partying in the night. It's there's way more to it than that. But the reason it like I think caught like a lot of people in London's attention is just like the how spot on they've got. Because like party scenes in films and stuff often like they just don't really get it right, or like
Yeah.
they're just a bit cringe or whatever. In terms of like the accuracy of what it's like to be like a young professional, I think in the London nightlife scene, I think it is so spot on. And then obviously the acting and stuff's great. And actually, Gilly, who used to play for Spurs, who I had on this podcast with his brother, remember I had the two brothers. The younger one is met or is good friends with Harper, the main
No
girl.
way.
And, yeah, because she was living in San Francisco when he was there, or something like that.
That's so random.
Yeah, so yeah,
I love that.
But yeah, go watch Industry. That's great. And yeah, and I'm gonna watch Marty Supreme tomorrow, so I'll let you know how
let me know next pod. We'll have to debrief that.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys. Please do, like I said, subscribe, rate the podcast, share the podcast with all your friends and family. And hopefully this next week of the transfer window is positive. Hopefully we get a result against West Ham. But then again, like who really cares at this point? Well, actually, I would love to see West Ham go down. That would be fun. So let's hope that. And yeah, thanks for listening. Come on, you Spurs.
Thanks, guys. Come on, you Spurs.